we are obviously talking about
the Wonder Woman trailer.
Today we're talking about Wonder Woman trailer.
Yes. Let's take a little trip.
Yes. And we're going to take this trip on June 2nd.
2017.
That is correct.
What a great year to be alive.
One thing I noticed is that this takes place, at least in the trailer at least, during the World War I era. And I think it's awesome because it shows Diana's travels and adventures that she goes through, and through all this time leading up to the events that's going to happen in Justice League.
It's very much an origin story.
Yeah, it's an origin story, and I think that this is a very smart move on DC to show that, because it really lets us get to know everything that she's gone through instead of just, oh, Wonder Woman's gonna be in Justice League. You know, we get to know what she goes through as far as her character goes.
Yeah, because I believe that like everybody knows Wonder Woman,
Right.
but nobody really knows Wonder Woman. Like they don't know where she's from, like what she went through. That there was no men in Amazon.
Right.
So
And
I figured that taking people through that journey, I think, is the highlight of this movie.
yeah.
And then later on, they will build upon that, kind of like what they did with Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And like in Iron Man.
Yeah, because what Marvel did with Iron Man is that before the Iron Man movie came out, not a whole lot of people really knew a whole lot about Iron Man. And then when Iron Man came out, everyone loved Iron Man. It was a great movie. Everyone was in love with his character, and it was awesome.
All right, back to DC.
Correct. So, Diane Prince, Wonder Woman, is being played by Gal Gadot. And that is the correct pronunciation because I looked it up myself. Because I wanted to make sure I said it correctly. And we're left to assume love interest. That's left to be seen in the movie if that's actually going to be true. But Chris Pine from the Star Trek movies is playing Steve Trevor.
Yes. Who is a pilot.
A pilot?
Yes, and he was shot down, and he washed up on Wonder Woman's island.
Right.
And this was the first man that they've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because Amazonians, they're all on one island, it's all women.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is the first man she's ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's going to be very interesting how they present that. Because we get a little glimpse of it in the trailer, because we see like his plane go down, and then he's like, where am I? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's going to be interesting how they play that off. And, if they can convince us that this is like a new experience for her.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, being like a person, I mean, we're used to seeing male, female every day.
Right.
So, what I'm going to look for in that scene is she really surprised?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if she's just like, oh, it's a dude, then I'm going to be like, that wasn't convincing.
Yeah. I imagine that they would probably, the race of the Amazonians would probably try to attack his character because it's something that like they've never seen before. So it's like human nature to be like, oh, what is this? You know, and start attacking. So I imagine that that's probably going to be the direction that they go.
I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think the Amazonian race, from what I can remember from Wonder Woman, is like fighters.
Yes.
And things like that.
They're warriors.
Warriors, yeah, that's what I meant. And then we have Connie Nielsen, who plays Queen Hippolyta. I guess that's how you pronounce it.
Close enough.
Which you would know her from the Gladiator. Good movie.
Are you not entertained?
Yeah. But That would be Diana's mom, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was right.
Yes, and we see her a couple points during the trailer.
Right.
One point, she's like tucking Diana into bed, and she's telling her like a story and stuff. And then we see her later on. So it looks like we're going to be seeing a lot of the Queen.
Yeah.
Which that'll be interesting in
Makes
itself.
sense. I imagine that it might be one of those situations where we see her in the beginning of the movie, and then like once, because we see Wonder Woman in the real world, so I imagine that she probably decides to leave. Why that reason is, we don't know yet. But and then that we may not see that too much of the Queen's character after that.
Well, Diana leaves because when Steve washes up on the beach, and later on he tells her about like what's going on in World War I, and so she leaves to go like and embarks on like spreading peace and like ending the war.
Yeah.
So she leaves her people to come to, you know, Europe and fight for peace on the side of the Allies against the Germans. And we see some of that fighting during the trailer, which I gotta admit, the fighting looks really good.
It does look good.
I mean, it doesn't look like fake fighting. It actually looks like they actually put the time in to learn and choreograph the right stuff. And I appreciate that in the movie. We don't need like fighting an Iron Fist because that was just horrible.
Yeah, like in the movies of the past, superhero movies, it was done campy, cheesy. Some of that was done on purpose, and some of it just wasn't the right time for it. But nowadays, people actually take time to make good scenes, fight scenes. That's not cheesy in superhero movies.
Right.
I can definitely appreciate that. But we also see Dr. Poison.
Yes.
Dr. Poison, which we see this character with this mask on her face and releasing this poisonous gas out, and we don't have any details about that.
So we just kind of get that glimpse, and it's kind of build your own idea of what you think her role is, which I'm actually kind of curious to see her role.
I imagine she will be a villain, probably not the main villain, but I feel like she would be a villain that Wonder Woman's going to have to face. I learned that Zack Snyder is one of the producers, which he is the one who directed Man of Steel and directed Batman vs. Superman, which a lot of people had a lot of hate towards. And I can definitely see it.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, it wasn't what everyone expected.
Not at all.
But we've been betrayed before by DC with having a really awesome trailer and having a mediocre movie. Same with Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad was also disappointing. So, I mean, we hope not, but this could be a flop just like the others. But, I mean, it looks hopeful.
I think if DC wants to have any run in the movie market, this has to be a hit.
Yeah.
Because Marvel is just cranking them out.
Right.
I mean, hit after hit after hit. And I also heard that that they went back and reshot a lot of Wonder Woman. So I don't know if there's a lot of issues with it, or if they just went back to reshoot some of it to make it actually a better movie.
Some of that might be true, because some of the reshoots might have been because of some of the critiques that Suicide Squad or Batman vs. Superman received.
Yeah, they decided to do a lot of retakes after BVS.
Yeah. And I can appreciate that. Maybe they fixed some of the problems that people had with Batman vs. Superman.
And another thing about this movie, I also heard it had a lot of plot holes. So hopefully some of that reshooting was going back and filling in some of the plot holes.
Yeah.
That's in it. Because I mean, I would hate for them to spend a couple $100 million on a great movie, but the plot is crap, and it's just pretty much an action overdone action movie.
Yeah, and that is unfortunately what happened with Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman and Suicide Squad. All of those had a huge budget, but they let you down in the execution of it.
Right.
Right. Which Zack Snyder is also one of the credited writers for this movie. So if you did like, Man of Steel or Batman vs Superman, I'm sure you'll like this too. The director is Patty Jenkins, which I honestly don't know who that is. I looked her up and I couldn't find anything of worth to talk about.
And honestly, I think that was a very bad decision on DC's part.
Not necessarily.
Because, I think giving potentially a director that has no, promising track record.
That is true.
Like a movie that either makes them or potentially breaks them in the movie genre.
Yeah.
I would have tried to get Christopher Nolan.
Well,
I would have tried to get somebody that has a distinct.
Here's the thing.
Filmography.
We talked about Guardians of the Galaxy before, and everyone had low expectations for Guardians of the Galaxy because Guardians of the Galaxy is not a popular comic book, and at the time, no one knew James Gunn. He did some independent films and stuff, and people didn't really know his name. But after the Guardians of the Galaxy blew everyone's minds, James Gunn became a household name, and Guardians of the Galaxy became a household name that no one heard of before. So I see your point about bringing in a director that no one's heard of, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that the movie will be a flop.
There's always a chance. For the sake of DC, I hope that it's not a bomb.
Right. I hope so too.
Because, like I said, I would rather try to get a director with a greater, more achievement-filled filmography
Right.
than giving it to somebody, and this is like their first big movie.
Yeah.
But, like you said, if James Gunn can do it,
Right.
We may be looking at the next Spielberg here and not even know it.
Exactly.
Never know.
And the next subject I'm going to talk about, I'm going to introduce it and then let Nick take over, is David Thewlis plays Sir Patrick. And David Thewlis, you would know him from the Harry Potter movies. But there's also someone else from the comic books that he also plays, and he plays
Ares. One of my favorite supervillains, Ares.
Why? Tell us more about Ares.
So Ares is a god. He's a Olympian god, and he loves war. He loves violence and all that kind of stuff. And why he's my personal favorite supervillain is because first off, I love the suit, and I grew up playing Injustice, and he was one of the awesome guys in Injustice, and because of watching Wonder Woman shows as a kid, and Ares was in it. He always had this kind of draw that even though he's a bad guy, he's really cool, and and I don't know, I just grew up and I was man, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to. And plus, anyway, I was a nerd and I read old books and stuff about mythology and stuff.
Right.
So I knew Ares from mythology.
I honestly didn't read a whole lot of comics growing up, so I'm kind of like a nerd for the movies, the comic book movies that have come out. So my knowledge on comic books, honestly, it's not going to be that much. But if you're wondering if Wonder Woman will have a sequel, now I know it's a little early to discuss this because the movie hasn't even come out yet.
Yeah, it's a little bit too early to be saying for sure.
Yes, but in an interview, Patty Jenkins, the director, stated that she's excited for her to come to America and become the Wonder Woman that we all are familiar with from having grown up around her as an American superhero. and she would like to bring her a little further along into the future and have a fun, exciting storyline that is in its own thing. Wonder Woman is so much about her becoming the person she is. I can't wait to spring forward with who she is and have another great standalone film. So it looks like a Wonder Woman movie is possible.
I think that. When was that? That was what, April of this year?
Yeah.
I think that is very. How do I put this in the right way? Reckless to put that out there before even the movie's out there.
Right.
And even before the second trailer was out there.
Right.
And especially saying that, like, oh, there definitely is probably going to be a sequel.
Right.
Because, I mean, if this flops like it's projected to do, I mean, then that's just, it's either going to get shelved or it's just going to be wasting money.
Well, the possibility of a sequel is up in the air if it does flop. Because if it does flop, there may not be a reason for there to be a sequel. Just like with Suicide Squad. If Suicide Squad had actually succeeded, there would probably be a sequel.
I would have waited till the movie came out and see how it did a month in before releasing. You know, maybe not. You know, we're still waiting on the final number. You know, like I would have waited to release something like that, in my opinion. But you know, they don't pay me the big bucks.
Correct. Now I have some speculations.
Let's hear them.
Okay, I predict that Steve Trevor, Chris Pine's character, will at some point in this movie pass away. Because he can't live forever, because the Justice League movie takes place in modern times, and this movie takes place during World War I times, and if he is alive, he would probably be old and wouldn't be much use anyways. So I think that we will see him pass away at some point in this movie.
You know, that actually made me just think of something while you were saying that.
What's that?
Since this is like the first movie in a possible before other sequels and stuff, you know, and since Justice League is right on, like, coming up pretty soon,
Right.
I hope they don't rush from like when, like, she's a kid and then at the end of the movie it's like almost Justice League. Because if so, I feel like there'd be so much time that they would have to just squish into like a 2.5 hour period.
Right.
And I feel like they would not be able to do it complete justice to squeeze in that much time into 2.5 hours, especially with like all the action and stories. Because I mean, just think what follows up, like the wars, World War II, Korea, Vietnam,
Right.
like Desert Storm, Afghanistan, Iraq and Afghanistan, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's so much to squish into that point. And plus, anyway, if they follow the comics, Steve is supposed to help. He's supposed to be like the first ambassador to Amazon and the UN when the UN is created and all that kind of stuff. So, I don't know what the base of the sequel is, because that quote you read us didn't tell us. But I think he may live through this movie. And if they do bring out a sequel, I think the sequel will be like from where this movie ends up until another movie. And I think he would probably die in the second movie. Because, I mean, he is only human. He cannot live forever. So I think he will die in the second movie if they make a second movie.
That is true. The thing about it is, until the movie comes out, we don't know how the movie ends.
Right.
If it's going to end, you know, in that era, or if it's going to lead up to Justice League. Which, if they do plan on having a sequel, it would be smart to not lead it up to now.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're going to base it over, let's say, a trilogy, I mean, that's plenty of time to do all of that and more.
Right.
Potentially. I mean, so I think to play it smart is to break it up and not just try to put everything into one whole movie.
Right. Right. I can agree with that. So, what are some expectations that you have for this movie?
Well, a lot of violence,
Yeah.
which I think that will be cool. It's PG-13, so I mean it's not going to be too out of control. I'm hoping for a great story and plot, and they fix whatever problems they need to fix.
Right. Definitely.
And I'm actually somewhat hoping that this is a good movie.
I am too.
Because, I mean, it's about time for DC to kind of match Marvel
Yes.
blow for blow in the cinematic universe.
And so far, they bombed.
Yeah.
So far.
I mean, because, you know, when I saw Daredevil, the movie with Ben Affleck in it,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Marvel. I was like, no, please, no. And then, like, Iron Man came, and it was just like a resurgence
Yes.
of the whole series. It made me believe that, like, nothing came before that. And that's the kind of movie that DC needs with
Yes.
Wonder Woman, is that this needs to be the start of a new chapter, new book, new everything.
Right.
This needs to revamp everything.
There was a time when DC reigned as far as movies go.
Yes.
There was the Batman movies, the Superman movies, you know, from the 80s and 90s, and even before that, you know, with the old TV series. But, you know, and then Marvel was kind of, you know, that didn't have much, or if they did, it flopped. But now DC has tried to make movies. Nowadays, they're not that great. I mean, Marvel is continuing to come out with hits every single movie. Again, starting with Iron Man. And they've had a string of hits. And as of late, with Man of Steel, and with Batman vs. Superman, and with Suicide Squad, they've bombed. And, I mean, Wonder Woman could be that movie that brings them back up. Not where, you know, Marvel is, but...
At least a step forward.
Right. I am hopeful that this movie will be good.
I mean, as a movie fan and a comic book fan and just overall nerd, I hope that this is a lot better.
Right.
Because DC needs to do something.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah. And I am hopeful that the Justice League will be good.
Yeah.
Because when the Avengers came out, everyone loved it. It was something that was highly anticipated because we knew since Iron Man that the Avengers was coming. And then when it came out, everyone loved it. It did not disappoint. So here's hoping that Justice League movie will have the same amount of goodness that people will enjoy.
I agree with that.
And on the subject of Justice League, I predict that there will be a Justice League trailer attached to the movie. No, not that is shown beforehand.
I can see that.
I can definitely see that.
Or I can see maybe they try to go the Marvel way and not have like a post-credit scenes, but play the trailer.
That I have seen that before. So it's very possible that they might show the trailer after the movie to kind of lead you into wanting to see it.
I mean,
Like, what happens next?
Give you that nibble.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we could get a new Justice League trailer.
I think it's very possible.
Because Justice League comes out in what, August, November, something like that.
Yeah.
So somewhere around that.
Right.
So I mean, because you got to think too, they're going to have to compete with Thor.
Right.
So.
And the Thor Ragnarok trailer is looking really good.
Yes. Well, I mean, when you got Marvel money, especially after all these recent movies, I mean,
And also,
everything looks good.
speaking of Marvel, is that there's a certain amount of quality that's expected when Marvel is
Right.
attached to it.
Right.
You know, as soon as a Marvel movie comes out, it's like, oh, that's going to be good. And nowadays, DC doesn't have that same amount of credibility that Marvel has right now. We would love to hear your opinions on this movie and what we could possibly do in the future for you guys. So we're going to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.
Thank you.
See y'all later.